Hi, and welcome to another product spotlight. I'm John, and I'm here today with my friend Ben, who was kind enough to bring over these amazing 3/4 dome cars from Rapido. This is going to be a real treat, Ben. I've been looking forward to this because I know about Rapido's passenger cars.
Yeah, and in my opinion, these are some of the finest models of this specific dome car that I've seen. And before that, the only way you could get a model of these was in brass.
Right.
And now that Rapido has done these in ready-to-run plastic, it's such a treat. They're so gorgeous.
The Rapido website has these listed for $159.95, and that's the MSRP. I always mention the MSRP because if you shop around for price, you can probably find it for less. What about the minimum radius curve? That's always something that's talked about with cars like this.
Yeah, so the minimum radius curve for these specific passenger cars is 22-inch radius, but included with the models are a set of longer shank couplers, so you could potentially run them on something as short as like an 18-inch radius curve.
So, Ben, it looks like the cars come with some stickers.
Indeed.
You know, those Rapido guys always keep stuff like this.
They have a great sense of humor, Rapido.
They do. And then there's the wand for turning the lights on and off.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like we have exploded view drawings behind the information. And again, we have information in French and in English.
Oui.
So this is what they come with. Lots of stuff. Something I noticed also as I was looking at this is that's a lot of parts.
It really is a lot of parts. I mean, Rapido absolutely went to the nth degree to put as much detail into these cars as possible.
I've looked at the website and they have a whole lot of these available, different patent schemes, different road numbers. They've just released that they're going to run another run of these. So there's a lot of information. Your best bet probably is to go to the website and find out if they have what you're looking for. So because both of these cars are nearly identical, we're going to go through this one in a little bit more detail, and where there's a difference, you know, like the interior of the car or the underbody detail, we'll put them side by side so people can see exactly what they're looking at in terms of differences. I've scrutinized the paint and markings on the cars, and all the separation lines are really crisp. And what I'm talking about is you can see that there's like silver pinstripes in between the red and the orange, and, you know, down here on the sill and up here between the red and the black. And those pinstripes are really crisp. All of the markings, including the little daylight logo down here, all super crisp.
And another thing to mention is the wonderful detail, like the stirrup steps right here. On the other side, you have the grab irons and stuff on top of the roof there.
Yeah, there's also a separately applied grab here.
Yeah.
They're up here. I see what you're talking about.
Detail on top of the roof there. It's
yeah.
Wonderful to see.
We'll take a closer look at that stuff in a minute. But also I'm going to mention, because this is pretty cool, and this is something Rapido always gets, is look at all of the detail that shows from the side of the car. That underbody detail is different on all the cars, and we'll look at that in just a minute. I'm always really wowed by the underbody detail of Rapido passenger equipment. So we're going to take a look at this end, and I'm just noticing, Ben, actually, that this is a great angle to see some more of that detail you were talking about up here.
I mean, you can really get to see the grab irons here, and even this little like walkway right here on top. You can really see just how well detailed Rapido made these cars, just down to even the most minute details on these. It's incredible.
Yeah, that even looks like it's all separately applied, which is pretty cool. And I'm also noticing that there's plenty of hose detail over here, and there's an uncoupling lever. This is actually, I'll let you do it, that's actually a semi-working diaphragm, which is pretty cool. And, well, I mean, the door, it looks, I'm sure that's a separately applied door because it's separate from the diaphragm, but it almost, okay, I was going to say it looks like it opens.
It would have been,
right?
It would have been really cool if they had made it like a spring-loaded door or something, but even just as it is, it's just all of the detail on this car is just wonderful to look at.
we don't usually look at both angles of the end, but I wanted to in this case because, once again, you can see this is a separately applied grab at the end, but this is a better view of all the piping and hoses down here. It looks like steam line detail on air hoses, and just, I don't know that there's anything you could add to this model
anymore, and you'd probably be starting to hike up the price more than it is.
So here's a brief look at the other side of the car. And something I want to mention is on the side we already looked at, you'll remember this detail down here was different. That is all kinds of really different looking stuff. I'm not sure. Are those battery boxes? What is that?
I believe they are battery boxes, yes.
And I'm talking about these things here. But there's a lot of little stuff all over. And something I should mention is that the writing on the model, everywhere you look, it's all legible. You just have to put I have to put a magnifying visor on to see it. But yeah, this is really cool.
And something else worth noting, I'm sure people noticed it when we were looking at the other side, are these two blank panels
right
on the car. Yeah. And the reason those are there, they seem odd, but the reason they're there is these dome lounges were technically rebuilds from older passenger equipment that the Southern Pacific owned. So in 1954 and 1955, Southern Pacific rebuilt, I believe, 6 passenger cars from 1937 into the dome lounges. So everything from the car body and the frames were reused from the passenger cars, but the dome section itself, that was supplied by the Budd Company, as many will know, has a rich history of building passenger rail equipment in the United States.
So here's a look at the other end of the car. I don't see anything really different to look at or to mention on this end, other than the fact that this is the end where the dome comes pretty much all the way to the end or close to the end. So
I think the only other difference on this end is the grab irons up here at the top here, because I don't believe those are on the other side.
No, they're not. And I think that has to do with the fact that the dome comes all the way over.
I would imagine so.
On the other side, the grabs were closer to the end of the dome on that side.
Yeah.
So for this shot, I've brought in the second car because there are some differences. That's the one back here or on the top. And boy, I mean, this is really cool. This is smoked glass, right? Which I'm sure is a prototype specific detail.
I'm sure it is, yes.
Yeah. And then what I'm noticing here, Ben, and this is good. Actually, you pointed this out when you got here, is that the configuration of the seats is different in each of these cars.
Yes. So there were 2 distinct interior configurations for these cars. On the top here, you can see it has a couple of chairs and booths in the back here on the top dome area, but it also has more standard chair seating kind of staggered off to the side, whereas the car on the bottom here, it has lounge style seating and the tables and booths all the way across the top. And I'm not entirely sure what the specific reasoning was, but I know they had 2 specific nicknames. The cars with the chair seating like this were given what was called Overland style seating, and the ones with the lounge style seating were dubbed Shasta interiors. And the reason for that, the last 2 cars built by Southern Pacific were assigned to the Shasta daylight between Oakland and Portland, whereas the rest would have been used on trains like the Overland Limited, the City of San Francisco, and the San Joaquin Daylight.
So I mentioned, and this is something, Ben, that I just love Rapido for this. Always when you turn the car over, and it really doesn't matter what car, but especially passenger equipment, it has everything. I mean, here's the funny thing is, I don't know, because I'm not a foamer of this type of model or this type of prototype, but I can't believe that there's anything on the prototype that's not on these models, because there's so much. And I wanted to have them side by side because you can see they're different, right? Like there's some of these boxes, but they're in different places on this one.
Yeah.
Right. Then there's all these, what we were saying, our battery boxes here. Well, there's some on here, but they're different configuration. And to me, that's just pretty amazing.
It really is amazing. And it's incredible to see that Rapido went to this level of detail on the underside of the car, even though you're probably never really going to see it when it's running down a layout or anything like that. But just the fact that they went to this degree of detail on these models is just wonderful to see.
So, Ben, here's something that I don't usually say on a rolling stock spotlight, but we're going to take a look at the lights. So why don't you hit the power on the track over there?
Here we go.
And look at that. Nice interior lighting. Something to me, especially with a car that has this much exposed interior, is how did they do that? The lights must be up in these corners, and it must have like a little light pipe that goes across the top. I think we'll take it apart and take a look. What do you think?
We could do that, yeah.
I'm kidding. Better take it apart. But remember, we saw that wand that came with the models. This is what it's for. You can turn the lights on and off just using the wand. And while we're looking at it with the lights on, I'm going to take and share some still photos of the interior of this car, and just to show people how well done the interior is. It's pretty amazing.
It really is.
And it kind of has to be, because there's so much exposed interior because of the windows and because of the lights, that it really has to be. And it just looks amazing.
And the prototype models themselves were very popular among passengers that rode the Southern Pacific while these were in service. And they had the nickname, the Stairway to the Skies, because of the large dome on them. So you could really get a panoramic view of whatever scenery you were riding through, whether you were traveling through the Cascade Mountains, the Sierra Nevadas, or even racing up and down the Central Valley of California.
Well, or even, how about this? The stars, because they would
absolutely.
run at night,
Yeah.
right? Through very remote places. So
Absolutely.
I bet the view of the stars and the galaxy were probably pretty amazing.
They had to have been.
So as I'm over here struggling in the dark to try to get pictures of the interior, Ben says, "Oh, did you notice the bar at the end has glassware?" So I couldn't get a good picture of it, but there's a bar at the end of the car down here, and there's actually glassware on the countertop in the bar.
Glassware and a sink.
Right? So which led me to look at it even more, and I noticed that there was a stairway that leads to the upper part, where the lounge is, and then there's a stairway on this part that goes down to the vestibule. So it's like, there's just every detail in this thing. It's pretty crazy.
It really is, but it's also it adds that little bit of like a nerdy detail to it. It makes the nerd in you pop out when you start to stop and look at just how much detail Rapido crammed into a 1/87th scale passenger car.
This one weighs 6.5 ounces. And this one also weighs 6.5 ounces. Here's one of the cars on my cheat sheet, and it looks like the NMRA's recommended weight for a car of this length is a little over 6.5, because it extends maybe about an inch. So the NMRA's recommended weight for a car of this length is probably around 7 ounces. Well, so as you can see, this is another really solid release from Rapido. As I said during the spotlight, Rapido always gets all the details, and it's pretty amazing to me that they can fit that many parts onto one HO scale model.
It is kind of mental to think about just how much detail is in those cars, but at the end of the day, it is very much worth it. And for me, I didn't realize how much I wanted one of these models until I saw just how much detail went into these cars, and then I realized, yeah, I'm going to have to get one. And then after I got the first one, I got a second one.
So, but the real question is there so much detail that now you need a third one?
If I do, hopefully not.
Yeah, maybe one of those other liveries we were talking about, right? Anyway, it's just a great job. Thank you very much
My
for
pleasure.
bringing them over, and we'll see you all next time.
Take care, everybody.